Happiness is beautiful, it's a kind reality. Happiness is the highest good, happiness is free. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.
Welcome to the Happiness Show. This is George Ortega. I'm here with Lionel Ketchian, and we're here to talk about happiness because happiness is, always has been, and always will be the point of it all. Today we're going to be talking about happiness as the feeling that guides our lives. Lionel, what do you think about this?
Well, I think feelings are extremely important, and I guess you're feeling that they might be the top of the heap. Although I will say that they're intermingled with thinking. I think that whereas feelings can affect our thinking, thinking can also affect our feelings. So there's a duality relationship going on with the two.
Yeah, this show is it's about we should have kind of like a guide to our lives, a basic motivation, an essential motivation. And for some of us, in today's world, it's like perhaps making more money or achieving success in our profession, or even, very noble goals. I mean, these are all noble goals, like raising a family, just doing good things. And these are all very good things to do. Mm-hmm. But what happens is that sometimes those focuses, those motivations contribute to our happiness and that of others, but sometimes not necessarily. Okay, so the idea is that, in terms of one motivation that really we can guide our lives around, it really should be that feeling of happiness, because there's an expression that says, if we're not enjoying it, we're not doing it right. And that should be and you talk about thoughts, that should be the thought that guides our life.
Well, as you were just briefly talking, I was thinking a little bit about my experience with happiness. And I'm going to say that I think you're 100% right, because although I did a lot of thinking about happiness, it wasn't until about 15 years ago that I really was aware that I had the feeling of happiness, that I was happy. But it was the feeling that I was in touch with. I was feeling good, and that feeling was something I didn't want to lose. So I maintained that feeling by using thought to support it. In other words, basically that's how I created this idea that I need to make a decision to be happy first and foremost, because this feeling is so important to maintain that once you have it, you realize nothing else can compare to that feeling. So it is feeling, you're right. Feeling is happiness.
Right. And another I think, reason why happiness should be the feeling that guides our lives is because, as John Locke said several centuries ago, goodness is what creates happiness. Okay, and then what Jeremy Bentham said a bit later is that the greatest good is what creates the greatest happiness for the greatest number. So when we have that feeling of happiness, as our motivator in life, as the key, the fundamental guide of our lives, it's not just about our happiness. We're thinking about the happiness of others. And that means, for example, if we're let's say a boss on a job, we might have these kind of imposed or exterior guidelines we have to follow in terms of making money for the business, these necessities and all. But, if a boss, a manager on a job, has this feeling of happiness as what's guiding his life, what's guiding his interaction with his coworkers, with his those that he supervises, then that's going to create a much more pleasant environment that, according to the research, actually will translate into better business anyhow. Mm-hmm. So it's the idea of having happiness be the motivator, the feeling that guides our lives, not just for ourselves, but for everything, and to incorporate that into whatever we do.
Sure, in a work environment, when you're feeling happy, your attitude is better. It's more conducive to the work environment, to communication, to getting along with others, for better relations, not only between people in a company, but with outsiders as well. So you could also say that feeling is about attitude, and a good attitude. We don't have to prove that point. Everybody knows a good attitude is important, but it's always been the question of how do you maintain that? How do you live with that? What is that? And I think feeling happy is a very large part of the right attitude that one can have.
Yeah, Lionel, because you say attitude, and an attitude is really, attitude is what motivates us. And
True.
And in a sense, like, this show really is about motivation because I mean, I don't know if there's research done on this, but Zelig Pliskin in his book Gateway to Happiness. No, this was another rabbi, Rabbi Noah Weinberg. He mentioned that he brings up the point in one of his audio tapes that, for example, you ask a person who's not very happy to do something, let's say to go on a picnic, watch a movie, something fun, and the person might say, I don't know, no thanks, whatever. but you ask a very happy person, let's do this, let's go on a picnic, let's play some tennis, let's do it. I say, yeah, how soon, when,
right.
Pick me up. So happiness is a motivator, and like in terms of an attitude, if we have happiness as our attitude in life, that's going to motivate us regardless of what we have to do, whether we're a boss taking, managing people, whether we're a parent who has to, as a parent, we're entrusted with the responsibility to make our lives pleasant for ourselves, our spouse, and our children and all. And that's going to motivate us to do things not just to keep the family busy, but to keep the family as happy and, as a result, as healthy as possible.
Yeah. And I think motivation could be used in a sense as a leadership ability because, and most of all, motivation is important for the individual because if a person is going to be a good leader or is going to be a motivator of others, they should at least have motivation within themselves. And I think happiness plays a big role when you consider feelings, because if you're not feeling happy, everything isn't going to work right. Nothing's going to feel right. In fact, in sports, feeling happy is becoming possibly the number one reason for success because it enhances skill. It really does. And, I'm almost finished reading a preview book, Skating Out of Your Mind by Cal Sutliff. He was a guest on our show. He actually did write it for figure skaters and people competing on ice. But really, it's a good book for everyone because we don't know that our feeling is going to lead the way in our actions, in our behavior, in how we think. It's the precursor of our day. When we talk about we hope we have a good day, well, if you're not feeling good, you can hope all you want, but you're wrecking your chances.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, like, we complicate our lives needlessly. Like we wake up and we've got a million things we have to think about. Get ready for work, drive there, whatever, get there, do the tasks. There's all these things, and we want to be good at them. We want to succeed in them, sure. We want to fulfill our responsibilities and all. But the wonderful thing about using happiness as the feeling that guides our lives is that it can simplify everything. I mean, sure, we're going to have to devote thought and time and effort to whatever we have to do that's part of our day. But when we simplify, when we bring all that together under the basic guide of our lives of feeling happy as possible and helping others to feel as happy as possible, that makes it so much more simple. I mean, some of the things during our day will work out as well as we'd like, some will work out better, some will work out not as well, but they won't matter because, like, we'll be focused on the only thing that does matter for ourselves and others, and that's what simplifies, that's what makes everything much, much more simple.
Absolutely. Now, when you're feeling happy, isn't it true that you talk about other people, when you're feeling happy, you really want and actually take part in helping other people feel happy. I mean, it becomes almost I wouldn't say part of your goal, but it becomes second nature to you to want others to feel happy. Because you don't need them, you certainly don't want them unhappy around you. That's number one motivating factor, that's for sure. And so making them feel good is almost an absolute, extension of you. You naturally want other people to feel good when you feel good. The trouble is, when a lot of people feel bad, they want you to feel bad too, to sympathize with them. And that's a whole nother problem in this world.
Lionel, that is such a good point. Oh yeah, because if we're not feeling good, then if we're with people who are feeling really good, it's like they're a threat, because we're saying to ourselves, Jesus, and we're not feeling, we're not at a place that, because, if we're not feeling good, we're recognizing they're in a better place, right?
Right.
So that it's a challenge. And I think for many of us who aren't feeling as good as happy as we'd want to, we kind of take on that challenge by saying to ourselves, well, it's much easier maybe to dampen that person's happiness than increase my own.
Exactly.
Exactly. But you're so right. I mean, if we're very happy, the last thing we want is to be surrounded with people who are less happy, and it just is so wise to just do everything we need to do to help them be as happy as they could be.
Well, that's another reason that I have been doing all the work, and I know you have, George, in making happiness a part of my life, because it's not just about my life. The happier I can become, the happier people around me become just by transference or whatever it is. Or maybe it's that they understand the benefits of happiness by seeing it work. And so being happy is a payoff directly to the individual, but it continues to pay off with everyone you meet. And even those people who will in your face say they're unhappy and they disagree with the way you are and the way you are acting and the way you're thinking, and they disagree with you totally, are affected in a positive way. You just may not ever find out about it, but you will leave them with something to think about, because happiness can't be denied. I mean, it's too powerful to be swept under the carpet as just a, we may be talking about feeling good, but it's not just a feel-good thing. It's an intelligent decision to live your life with. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and you're referring before to influencing others. And I mean, we've got this whole world out there, and those of us in the richer, more fortunate countries have the resources and the ability to help the rest of the world, to help the world as a whole to become much happier, to live better. And when we use happiness as a guide, when happiness is that feeling guides our actions, we're going to be helping the world in a much better way. For example, again, I mentioned this on last show, but over one half of the world lives on $3 or less American dollars a day. Right now,
Right.
We know, according to the research, that to be that poor, it's very difficult to be very happy. There are exceptions. Nigeria, Puerto Rico, Mexico, there are certain countries that aren't very happy but are actually happier than the rich countries, but that's more of the exception than the rule.
You mean they aren't very rich?
Oh, right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, thanks.
Okay.
They aren't very rich at all, but they are happier than the richer countries like
Right.
the United States and all. So, but again, those countries are more the exception than the rule. So, I mean, if we want to think of it in terms of compassion, it's good to kind of improve business, improve whatever, especially for those countries where they're so poor. It's very important to help their economies, to have them have enough food, enough, clothing, housing. But also, I mean, in terms of happiness, helping others, we also have to recognize that that emotions are contagious. You talk about influencing others. We influence others with our happiness, but then again, that avenue flows the other way. If you've got half of the planet very poor, in a very difficult circumstance to be very happy, this kind of like, I don't know, it's probably better explained in within a spiritual context, the idea that like their unhappiness is probably weighing down our happiness in ways we don't see.
Yeah, George, I want to agree with you in a sense of saying, to support you in what you're saying. When you're happy, but it takes being happy to get to this point. When you're happy, and you're not letting desire be your motivator, but happiness, and you're feeling complete, then it would be a natural extension of yourself to want to allow other people that don't have as much as you do to have the basic necessities of life. For example, eliminate disease, eliminate struggle and poverty and starvation as much as possible. And when we do that with a happy heart, I might add, we actually feel good about it. And I think we might even say that it's a perfectly wonderful, selfish thing to do. And I don't see anything wrong with selfish. I like the word selfish. I think self-centered is something else. It's self-centered when you want more, and you don't care about anyone else. When you really think about the poverty of the world and the unfortunateness. Now, it may take a big tragedy like a tsunami, for example, or a hurricane in Florida, to think that when there's real devastation, we really want to help. But it takes happiness to maintain that. Otherwise, there's burnout. Otherwise, we're always going to feel that no matter what we do, maybe we should take care of number one first, and the heck with everybody else.
I know that's such a great point, because you see a lot of infomercials, not a lot, but you see some on TV that want to arouse compassion in people. So they show pictures of kids that are suffering hunger. They, when these occasional famines happen, they'll show people in distress, and the newscasters, the news commentators, etc., will, I think, try to evoke a feeling of pain in the viewer. And that works, okay, because people begin to feel guilty, and then they'll open up their wallets and pocketbooks for a while and give. But as you're saying, that strategy has limitations, because like it's not to kind of like these people, the people in need ongoing help. It's not just for right now, for a week or two, and like to be able to help them, maintaining that feeling of like pity, of like feeling bad, is not good. Is not good. Anybody in the right mind would not want to constantly feel that week after week, month after month. So you were referring to like smiling, feeling good, having that be an encouragement. I'm so serious, Lionel. This when you translate the work of helping people. Sure, you want people to feel what or to have an understanding of what people in need are feeling. But once that's completed, shift to optimism, shift to enthusiasm, shift to smiling, shift to just demonstrating to people that as we help those of us in need, we should expect, and we can really anticipate, our happiness to be much, much more.
Right, and George, another aspect of this whole thing is politics and world governments. And unless more people learn the benefits of happiness, there's always going to be this war anyway, because even though, as we know, we've shipped a lot of food to Africa, a lot of times it just never gets to where it needs to go because it's sidetracked by the governments of the countries. They sell it off, they make a profit. And again, if more people learn that happiness was something that they could work on and benefit from and feel more complete with, then there would be less of a need to take from others, because there wouldn't be much satisfaction in it. There'd be more satisfaction in giving to others than it would be in taking from others when you already have enough. Because, we're trying to get satisfaction from having a lot and then adding more, when I think that game is playing out to a game of being happy and allowing others to have what they need. It's not just about having more, it's about having enough. And I think, I think we started the show with When you have enough, it's enough. And I think at that point, when we realize we do have enough, what do we do then? And happiness, we don't have enough until we have happiness. And once we have happiness, there are others who don't have enough. And I think that's when we raise their level, but at the same time, we benefit too, because happiness is that kind of a commodity.
Lionel, I wanted to address a point you made that I think is very, very important. I think you raised the point that sometimes we will give money and aid and it doesn't get to the people that it's intended. Okay, I've studied the world hunger problem for years. I've got a small library of books on it. There are certain myths about, world hunger, poverty, etc., that are pretty much universal, and they're just, they're myths. They're so wrong. And one of them, for example, is that you have these wars, you have these natural famines, natural conditions, and you have like these leaders that don't allow the money to get to where it's needed and stuff. People believe that these things are responsible for the great poverty and the great hunger in the world, whereas together, collectively, famines, wars, corrupt government officials are responsible for just a fraction of the problem. It's really about their whole economic infrastructure. And the idea is that, we can't, these wars, these famines, these corrupt officials will occasionally happen. There will continue to happen for years on. But, the reality is that the problem of poverty, especially in Africa, can be resolved, despite these things, despite the wars, despite the occasional famines, despite the corruption in government. And people need to know this, because a lot of times people will use these reasons as saying, well, with these things happening, there's nothing we can do. When, again, it's a myth, but the reality is that those things just make up a very small fraction of what's causing the extreme poverty in Africa.
Well, I think my point really was just that world politics, by being benefited from the knowledge of happiness, would be far better off for everybody, for all mankind.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's so, Lionel, because again, what we're saying is if feelings are so contagious, if and they really are,
True.
We'll watch something on TV. This is demonstrated scientifically. What we listen to, what we watch, will just color our feelings. And if this happens on a moment-to-moment basis in our personal lives, it's certainly happening on a global level. And again, I'd have to shift from the scientific to the more spiritual, because I'm not sure there's scientific evidence on this, but I would strongly guess that you have half the world living on very little, finding it very difficult to be very happy. That in some kind of spiritual sense, that really is limiting the happiness of us all.
Well, that could very well be. But then again, you can have people with a lot, with very limited spirituality, limiting the happiness of us all too, because they've taken both spectrums and are not happy.
This is all right. This show is about feelings as guiding our lives, but this is important because then we're talking about the rich. There's a lot of, and that's a problem because if we're not having happiness as the feeling that guides our life, what are we guiding our lives by? Money. Money. When you ask people, this is scientific, when most people are asked, what do they think will make them happier?
Sure.
The number one answer is money.
Of course.
Now, we've got 40 years of research that demonstrates that no, above the poverty line, money makes hardly any difference. All right, so the rich people, the rich corporations in the world are a great problem to the world. Not just, they're a problem to our happiness because they get people wanting money when people should really be wanting happiness. And I personally believe that they're a great threat to the security of the world. You've got these terrorists, committing terrorist acts, just inciting terror in the world, and the people who are supporting them, the people, like in Indonesia, they were wearing bin Laden t-shirts, like 1 million of them. The people who support these terrorists are the very poor that the richer countries have just given up on, ignored. Not just that, they've abused. They've exploited and all. And who is doing this exploiting? Who's exploiting? Who's leading the world to just neglect these needs for their own benefit, to make money? The rich and corporations. So yeah, in terms of seeing what really is a very, very important problem in this happiness issue, when we can get people to shift their focus from money to happiness, and that means taking on the rich and corporations and just finding a way to have them have less power, then people can be focused on what's important, not just for their personal lives, but for the lives of people throughout the world.
Well, I think the way to make the shift is really for happiness to stand on its own 2 feet for value. And then, when people start realizing, hey, this is good, this is important, this is valuable, and I want to know more about this, I want to encourage myself to learn all I can and maintain a lifestyle of happiness, then I think it'll all happen on its own. That's what I think. I don't think you could really tell anyone else what's right for them. You can only show them what is a possibility, a strong possibility, and then you'll leave the plate on the table, and when they're hungry, they eat. That's my feeling.
And Lionel, when we adopt the strategy of helping ourselves and others become as happy as possible, yes, that could be a very strong inducement, because then those of us who are more concerned with success, money, education, all these things that distract us from happiness and don't work in creating happiness, when we see that, hey, this person is happy, despite all that stuff, then they'll get the point. Then they'll get the point that life isn't about all that. It really is about happiness.
Well, that's what we say every show. But it really is about happiness, and I think until people are educated to how much it's about happiness, I don't think, I think it'll continue to be about money.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's changed. All right, well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. In the future, we'll explore other topics designed to help us better enjoy life. This is George and Lionel saying, be good, think well, feel very happy, and I hope you'll join us again next time here on The Happiness Show.
Happiness is powerful. It's our underlying need. Happiness is why we live each day. Happiness is destiny. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.